Hello, I'm Greg Harrison with USDA Market News Service here in St. Joe, Missouri with your National Feeder Cattle Summary this week. Well, the last time I was here was the week ending December 19th, 2014, and the feeder cattle market was in the tank at dire straits. We were trading feeder cattle $10 to $20 lower. Spots it was $20 to $30 lower. And in the last 3 weeks, well, a lot has changed, and over the last 3 weeks we've seen live cattle, fat cattle prices rebound at the same time. Going back 3 weeks ago, they were trading at 156, 157, and now they've come back to trade from 170 up to 172. Dress prices at 270 to 275. Feeder futures and live cattle futures have rebounded over the last 3 weeks. So on this first week of January, when you compare it to the last market reported, the week of December 19th, that we're seeing feeder cattle prices trading mostly $10 to $15 higher this week, and spots $20 higher. As we put the holidays and the last 3 weeks in our rear view mirror, hopefully we got the idea that the December lows hopefully represented a market bottom. This week we've seen extremely cold weather, sub-zero temperatures and wind chills, minus 30, 40 through a majority of the U.S. But however, this feeder cattle market this week, well, it broke out of that deep freeze to find buyers very aggressive to buy feeder cattle and to fill orders. And looking at some of our markets this week at Fort Pierce, South Dakota, last Friday on January 2nd, they sold over 250 head of 6-weight steers averaging 628 pounds with a weighted average price of $280.44. And with over 250 head of their bigger brothers averaging 822 pounds, they sold at a weighted average price of $234.55. And this week at Green City Livestock Auction in Green City, Missouri, they sold 150 head of 7-weight steers averaging 717 pounds, and they sold with a weighted average price of $261.66. Also on Wednesday of this week in Bassett, Nebraska Livestock Auction, they sold over 300 head of replacement quality heifers averaging 667 pounds, and they sold with a weighted average price of $281.37 and had a top at $301 on them. And on Tuesday of this week, short-bought packers pulled the trigger early in the week to regain a foothold in the fat cattle market as a full-out scramble ensued to procure needs, and we saw bullish sales of live prices in Kansas on Tuesday, trading $4 higher than the week before, trading at 170. Dress sales in Nebraska traded from 270 to 275. That was about $5 higher than the week before, and seen some live sales up to 172. Processors came back from the holidays needing product, and boxed beef prices have steadily advanced over the last couple weeks, but they're not quite advancing as fast as this fat cattle market's been going up. Look at feeder cattle and live cattle futures right now seem to be ignoring the high price of the fat cattle and also the high price of feeder cattle prices. Right now, buying back into those market caution seems to be in order. The futures can be very volatile, and this week we've seen a lot of volatility in the feeder cattle futures trading with some sharp losses, and they come back and then they lose it again. So right now we're seeing some caution in this future market. The feeder cattle prices right now that we're seeing are well ahead of the nearby feeder cattle contracts at this time. You know, the record feeder cattle market that we had of 2014 found out how high it could go with the record corn crop that we had. Looking at the market going forward and going into spring, it's kind of difficult to estimate how high this market can go when you got these current high prices, but we could still be north of our current prices that we have, especially on cattle that'll be going for grass. So demand remains very good for available feeder cattle at this time, and like I said, this week pretty much gained back everything that we had lost since we last did this video in the feeder cattle and in the live cattle prices. And next week we'll be seeing some major auctions have a lot of receipts coming next week, and we'll see if this market can hold going in the next week too. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back with you next week to catch more markets at this site.